G'day folks, I've just been playing with this old Mitsubishi electric rotary compressor. I pulled it out of the old condensing unit that I had in some of my earliest videos. One where I built a junkyard air conditioner for my workshop. That unit was retired a couple of months after I installed it actually, and the condensing unit's been sitting around since then, so I decided to have it decommissioned and I pulled the compressor out to play with. And it's a fairly big compressor. Puts out a huge amount of air. It easily maxes out my vacuum gauge at 30 inches of mercury without even having to put back pressure on it either. I don't know whether it's the oil behind the rotor vane or whether it's just back pressure in the housing from the small outlet, but it just manages a sheer massive amount of vacuum. It's still noisy even with back pressure, so it's probably half worn out anyway, but I'm going to have a play around with it for the time being. It's an identical pump to this one which I used in an earlier video where I dismantled it. I've modified this one to work as an air motor. The YouTube user by the name of Tesla 500 inspired me to do this by taking the initiative and just demonstrating on camera what can happen when you put pressure back through the suction line, and they do indeed turn into a very inefficient air motor, which I'll demonstrate right now. I've got to try and come up with a reason to actually use one of these, but they're a bit of fun. Of course, I'm metering the air using the air gun. I'm not delivering a massive amount of litres per minute to it. If I were to do so, I'd probably end up with a fair amount of torque. But they're certainly not efficient by today's air motor standards. But they do work, and they require constant lubrication. You've got to pour oil into them to keep them seizing up. That's the other downside of using one of these as an air motor. If you were to want to use one as an air motor, I suppose you could always cut the casing off just above the compressor, which is where these weld marks are. That's one of them right there. Cut it off where the weld marks are and somehow weld a top plate onto it and try and keep all the oil contained. But it still comes out the discharge anyway, which is in there. And out here where these bolt holes are, I've taken the discharge valve out of this one. They do work with the discharge valve in, but you don't get as much volume of air coming out of them, so your output power is limited. But they do work. And this one here, I'm not sure what I'll use it for. Might even replace my little tandem reciprocating compressors with it as my main workshop air supply. I had it running for a good 25 minutes, and although it does blow a little bit of a mist of oil out, the temperature of it's not too high. I can still touch it. Obviously the smaller they are, the harder they work, but that's what you get in the salvage world. Nothing's really built for this sort of use, so we'll see how much use we can get out of it. Thanks for watching.